We have an announcement. So
This meeting is being recorded.
here's what's going on, guys. So the week after break, which is the week of the 21st to the 25th, we will not be having any classes that week. Okay? No classes will commence that week. So
What week?
the week of the 21st to the 25th. So
Oh, okay. Thank you.
yeah, we will not have class on either the 22nd or the 24th of that week. There was supposed to be, so in the turn, there's going to be a couple of movies that will get pulled. Okay, so we will not be watching Jackie Brown, unfortunately, because I was looking forward to that one. And we will also not be watching we'll cut. I'm cutting Jackie Brown. I think I don't think I have to cut anything else other than that. Let me see.
Wasn't someone assigned that one though?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we've already worked that out. She's gonna now do her presentation on April 26th on Dr. Strangelove. So
Oh, okay, cool.
I was able to move her to a different day. Oh yeah, I also cut Alien out of the horror section. Unfortunately,
Don't cut Fargo. I've already worked too hard on it.
no worries. Yeah, but I also cut Alien out of the horror section. So, if Sonny, I don't know if Sonny Gooseland's here. Let me see. Yeah, Sonny, your presentation will now be on the 29th on Clockwork Orange. Okay.
I was kind of excited to watch that one. Honestly, I'd never even watched it before.
Which one?
Alien.
Yeah. I hate.
Was
that.
it me, Sonny, or the other Sonny?
Sonny Gooseland. Yeah. So
Okay.
the other Sonny. Yeah, Sonny Stewart, your presentation is on West Side Story on the 19th. Yours is still scheduled, so for that day. Yeah, I hated I had to make some cuts, but yeah, I'm needed for play practice on those days. And yeah, so unfortunately.
It'd have been great if you would have cut the musicals out.
Yeah, well, like I said, musical's not my genre either, Aline, but it will be a rewarding experience nonetheless. Plus, we'll get to see Hugh Jackman again. Right? Hugh Jackman is the star of Les Miserables, so we will get to see him again.
When is our short essay due?
Okay, so I was actually getting to that, Madison. You like Madison or Maddie?
Either is fine. I get called both.
Yeah, so the week, because we're not having class that week of the 21st to the 25th, that will be when your short essay will be due. And I still need to write up the questions to give you. I'm going to try to do that by Thursday so that you will have the full 2 weeks to write it. So what I plan to do that week is actually the week of the 21st and 25th in place of a discussion post. We're still going to do some work that week. But in place of a discussion post, what I plan to do is have you guys do some grammar review. So I'll probably have you guys do like a grammar workshop or something like that. That way, hopefully, some simple common mistakes will be cleared up whenever you write your short papers. So I'll probably have you guys do a couple of like grammar reviews in place of doing a film and discussion that week. I usually find those necessary to do in almost all of my classes, just because, I can't assume that you guys know this stuff. So it won't hurt. It's one of those cases where it won't hurt to give you a little extra seasoning on your writing. So it's a theater class, but it's taught by an English professor. So there you go, right? But that paper that week will be about a 3 to 4 pager. Okay. And I'll give you guys lots of materials to help you write that. Like I'll go over a bunch of different writing strategies and all that stuff. So what I'll probably do is actually make a video that goes over all that. So you will have plenty of writing instruction to get ready for your paper. After that, you'll have 2 more papers before the end of the course. One will probably be due mid-April, and the other one will be due right at the end of the class. So, and as far as discussion posts go, you guys know I've been reading and keeping up with them every week. I haven't, so I gave you grades on your Blade Runner one. But in general, I think some of you guys in here need to pick those up a bit. If you're just writing like 2 or 3 sentences, that's not going to cut it. Okay. I at least need enough to kind of know what you're thinking about the movie before class begins. That way I can be like, hey, Stacy, I saw your comment. All right, you want to talk about it? You guys know that that's how I bring those in. So some of you guys are just writing a couple of sentences, maybe pick it up a little. For the most part, all the rest of you guys are doing just fine on those. Actually, what I'm thinking about doing, rather than grading all those individually, I'm actually thinking about giving you guys kind of like a holistic grade. Like here's where you're standing on those holistically. So yeah, I think that's actually how I'll do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a holistic grade saying, okay, here's where I think you're standing with these. Maybe pick them up, or you're doing just fine, or what have you. So that's probably how I'll approach those, because I know how each and every one of you are doing with them just from reading them every day. So I'll probably write up a holistic grade through midterm and be like, okay, here's how you're doing. Maybe pick it up a little, or stay the course. So that's probably how I will handle that, rather than grading each one of them individually. Yeah, I think that will be just as productive, and maybe cut me a little, give me a little time too. So that's how I will do that, and I will try to get those. I'll try to get those to you sometime soon. Okay.
Where I had missed, I think it was Thursday, wasn't it? Due to where I had COVID.
Yeah, don't worry, Allie. You just missed one day. Yeah. So
Yeah, but what I was trying to figure out is I never did get to see your Zoom post about it to go over everything and make sure I didn't really miss anything.
So the day that you missed was the Revenant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't go over anything except talk about the film. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I actually posted that to YouTube. I just need to post it to our class. But yeah, I'll get that up.
Well, I just now I forgot that I didn't get it done and on my discussion part. And I just while ago, right before class started, I got to post that one and Logan today.
Good. Yeah, like I said, guys, I'll give every one of you a holistic grade, and let's say you get a B or C on those, it won't be too late to pick them up. Okay, so if you get a B or C, just pick it up a little bit, and you will get where you need to go by the end of the course. I will say this: I've been extremely pleased with you guys. This has been a very rewarding course. I actually look forward to it a lot. Yeah, you guys are kind of the highlight of my week. So yeah, actually, I'm actually really enjoying you guys. So all of you are doing just fine. Okay. And as far as the papers go, whenever you turn them in the week after break, even with that, let's say if you guys don't get a grade on it that you want the first time, I'll actually allow the revision opportunity, right? Because it's kind of my philosophy as a writing teacher. Like I never like to give a feedback along the lines of, okay, your paper has a C. Here's why your paper sucks enough to get a C, right? You guys know how that's how feedback often comes off. By the way that I like to give feedback is, well, okay, maybe here's a grade, right? Here's how you can improve yourself to get better. And I actually allow revisions where you improve yourself, and then I'll regrade you. So with that said, you got to take it seriously the first time. Don't just write something crap and then expect to improve it later, right? But I do give you guys a genuine opportunity to improve yourselves. So let's say later on you get a grade on your first paper you don't like. That's something I'll be more than happy to do, is give you a rewrite to get it where you need. Okay. So any questions about class business? Some of you guys just came in.
Yeah, when is the first paper due? I came in with you talking about the paper.
It's going to be due on the 25th of March.
25th. And what's the topic?
I'm going to be posting that soon, Jessica.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Jessica also announced that during that week, we will not be holding any class sessions. However, that week, I will be giving you guys some grammar reviews. So you will do those that week. Okay. Those will help you with your writing. Yeah, Shay, yeah, I will do so. I'll actually post the revised schedule since I cut out Jackie Brown and Alien. Okay, I will actually post that revised schedule for you, for everyone, on our announcements on our Brightspace page. Yeah, but you guys got a little taste of Ridley Scott with Blade Runner, so I didn't feel too guilty about cutting Alien out of the syllabus. But maybe that week as well, if you guys come to the Cuckoo Nest play, maybe just tell me after. Maybe I'll give you like a little extra credit or something like that. So I'll consider that as well. So if you want to come to that play, please do so.
When is it again? I'm sorry. The play.
The play will be every day from the 24th through the 27th. So every night about 7 o'clock, the 24th through the 27th. I think the 27th is on a Sunday. I think that show will be at like 2. But the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday shows will be at like 7. So yes, please do come out for it, especially since we all watched the film in here. You guys will see how that translates over into the theater.
I think it will be more funny seeing the play in person like that instead of the actual movie, because the movie had moments of creepiness, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we have a very good cast. The guy who plays McMurphy does a very good Jack Nicholson he does a very good Jack Nicholson impersonation, I guess you could say. I'm the aide at the end who lets the prisoners have the party. That's who I am in the play. So yeah,
I'm really excited to see Brittany play Miss Ratchet. because
yeah.
she's so talented. Uh, her husband was my old like choir teacher and stuff. They're just lovely people.
Yeah, she's really good. I've seen her. The only scene I've seen her practice is the scene where McMurphy chokes her at the end, right? But she seems like she's got that role down pretty good. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've only been able to take a limited part just because of how far away I am from Logan. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a great show. Yeah, that week of the play, come out to it for sure. Come support it. Okay. And maybe come introduce yourself to me after the play. All of you guys, a lot of you guys in here, I don't know your face. So come introduce yourself to me after the play. I'd like to get to meet everyone.
I seen you at Outback Saturday. I took you to your table.
Oh yeah, was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
You should have said so. You should have said so. I was with my wife and in-laws, so yeah, that's who I was with that day.
Yeah, I talked to my mom to see if maybe she'd want to go watch it with me. See if maybe they want to go with me and go see it.
I think they're charging $10 a ticket, but if you get the tickets early, I think they're only charging $8. So just so you guys know that too. Okay.
When did you say it was?
It will be every evening from the 24th through the 27th. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it'll be at 7 o'clock. And Sunday, it'll be at 2 o'clock. So yeah, it's great. We're trying to get the arts and all that stuff back to Southern. You guys know that we're primarily a sciences and healthcare school and all that stuff, but we're trying to bring some humanities and arts and all that stuff back. So it's going to be a good time. So I've talked enough. We had a lot of updates we had to cover. So I'll talk more about that Thursday. Thursday, we're only going to get to do one mobster movie, unfortunately, because of the cuts that Stacy will be presenting on Goodfellas on Thursday. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, Stacy. I haven't ever talked Goodfellas before. So Matt, without further ado, I will let you start.
All right. Well, my name is Matthew Lane, and I will be presenting the movie Logan. There we go. All right, here's a little brief plot summary. In the year 2029, a war-down Logan, aka Wolverine, is one of the last remaining mutants on Earth. He looks to escape from his past by retreating to an abandoned plant where he tends to his creator, Charles, aka Professor X. This all goes awry as Logan encounters a brand new mutant named Laura, whom he must take to North Dakota so she can escape across the border with the rest of her fellow mutants. Some of the themes for Logan would be aging, death, family, and science. And here is some of the main cast of the film. We got Hugh Jackman, who played as Logan, and he also played, of course, his X-24, his clone that you see later in the film, who is like twice more powerful as him, it seems. He's also, you mentioned earlier, he's in Les Miserables as John Valjean. John, is that how you pronounce the name?
Yeah.
And another film he's in is Bad Education, plays as Frank Tassone. And then you got Patrick Stewart over here, who plays Charles. And he's probably most known as being Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek. And he also plays in the movie Green Room as Darcy. And Daphne Keane plays Laura. Of course, her list of films isn't as big since she's a child actor. She was pretty young when this movie came out. Currently, she's in the HBO Max series Dark Materials as Lyra Silvertongue. It's one of the things I found about her. And you got Boyd Holbrook, who plays Donald Pierce, one of the main villains of the story, the first one you see. And one of his more recent roles was he played in the 2018 Predator movie as Quinn McKenna.
I thought he
The
looked
director,
I was going to say I thought he looked familiar. And he's now you said it.
all right, well, the director of the film was James Mongold, and some of his films he directed was he also directed the 2007 version of 310 to Yuma. He directed Ford versus Ferrari, and he directed Copland. A little bit about his style. One thing I read was that he stated that he likes to write his films as if he's describing a film to a blind person. So he doesn't like to have a lot of downtime in his films. He likes to keep the action going. You don't see, usually everyone's doing something at some point in the film. The composer for the film was Marco Beltrami. And a few key scenes got from the film here was I always know who you are, just sometimes I don't recognize you. The first scene we see Logan tending to Charles, and then Logan being introduced to Laura for the first time. Laura's powers being revealed, and the first major fight and chase scene you see in the film. And then you may not love her, but she is your child. When Logan charges the phone and sees the rest of what happened with the new mutants and what was going on there. And here are my discussion questions. So what do some of you think about the relationship between Logan and Charles in the film, or if you want to, we could also talk about Logan and Laura's relationship, which is probably a bigger part of the film than the former.
I feel like Logan and Charles are kind of at a crossroads because Logan kind of blames him for maybe the death of all the mutants and maybe not being able to help him as he thought he'd be able to. And I like the line in the movie where it was like the most powerful brain in the world, has no control over it. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think Logan's kind of resentful at this point, and he just is kind of just over it and kind of just wants to die now. But he was still really upset when Charles died, which I recognize too, because he still has that respect and love for him. But I thought the relationship was pretty interesting.
I know very limited of the X-Men. I've watched a few films, but it's been years. But what I remember of like Wolverine Logan, he's always kind of like hated his powers. Like he kind of resented it, and that he's always kind of just hated that part of himself because he was different. He was a mutant, which was not really looked upon great for the most part. But with Logan and Laura's relationship, I feel like it's the typical. How do I describe this? Let's just say if your dad kind of went away and just didn't want to be part of your childhood, and also didn't want to be part of it. I feel like that's how it started out to be until he really kind of fell in love with like Laura, just being his kid and really accepting it. Because I understand that he didn't even know he had a child, from what I can tell. And it was just a big shock factor, and he was in denial for the most part of it. I just found that very interesting. So you don't really see that type of relationship anymore in movies.
Are you just talking about the father's daughter relationship, Jaden? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, like it's strange, but trying to build upon it. You don't see that much in movies, especially anymore, because they're all like happy endings nowadays. Which I'm kind of glad. I hate to say this, but I'm kind of glad this wasn't such a happy ending. Like I feel bad that Logan died, and I wish he didn't. But I feel like this was the end of an era for like Hugh Jackman for him, because that's what I've always known him as Wolverine. And he really just, I feel like he wants to be no more than the X-Men films.
Yeah, I
I
guess it's kind of his swan song in a way. He's getting up there in age now. It's probably one of the I've just judging by all the films I saw on IMDb. This is probably probably his best film he was a part of. So he probably wanted to go out on a bang.
Are any of the rest of you guys in here big X-Men fans? Have you guys seen a lot of the rest of the films?
I have, yeah. I've watched pretty much all of them. Logan's definitely my favorite as far as a cinematic standpoint goes. But I always love X-Men Origins too, because Ryan Reynolds for like the first 3/4 of the movie, and but then they kind of ruin at the end. But yeah, I like how they went with a standalone kind of thing here, where they didn't tie in everything. They just kind of made a really good Wolverine story. So I found that very interesting. I wish they did something like that with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. That'd be pretty cool.
I like the relationship between Logan and Charles. I felt like it was like a father and son relationship. And I like how it transitioned to Logan and Laura, like the father and daughter dynamic there. He was reluctant. Charles, he's always gave him pushback and stuff like that. And Laura at the beginning, she wouldn't let him have his backpack, and there was like some burials there, and pretty much maybe like the same burials. Maybe that's why he saw like himself and Laura. Maybe it was some of the same burials that he had with Charles when Charles first found him. I did like that. The reference to Shane. I felt that I like that quote. I can't remember the quote, but there was a quote that was actually in Shane, and it did make sense for Wolverine. I don't feel this was really like a Western-like movie. I've already said that in my discussion thing, but I get, I see why they referenced that quote. I can't remember it though. And I've watched other X-Men's. I like the X-Men. I haven't watched them all because I'm not like huge into it, but I do agree with this being his last like X-Men. I think it's a good ending.
Yeah, the
Oh, it
quote.
was really interesting how he let his clone walk away with his daughter, and he went and checked on Charles first, and just let him walk away with her.
Right. Yeah, I guess that was before their bond really started to develop there, Timmy. But still, it was interesting that he went to check Charles first.
I think it was because, like, Laura was still a stranger and stuff. Like, he did look up to Charles, like, as a father figure. And he was probably still in denial that Laura was even his child. Like, yes, he had the similar powers, but she was more so made in a lab type. He didn't know that she even existed. So you can see the resentment. That's probably not the right word, but it's the only word I can think of towards it. Like, And I think he was also kind of getting jealous of Charles and Laura's relationship because they were getting a lot closer. Probably the same relationship that Logan originally had with him. But ever since he started getting into it and just started, like, after the whole killing off the mutants thing, just started fading away. I think he kind of missed that relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you watched all the X-Men movies, Charles takes on a father figure to all the mutants. So if he was, he should have. You would think that he would at least be understanding of the way that he acted towards her, especially with her being a little child, like the way he treated all the kids that were at the school in the first three X-Men movies. He was real protective over all the kids that were at the school, and I mean just the mutants that were children in general.
I haven't watched them all, but just from just seeing my friends' relationship with siblings and my own. It's kind of different when you kind of raised up with them or if you're around them most part, but this was a whole new relationship. So it's been a while. Like, I think it was like a year since that big event. I haven't watched all the movies, but he's used to just kind of seeing him with him and forget his name, the albino guy. He's used to just only those two seeing Charles and having a relationship where this new girl, Laura's now kind of taking the place of what Logan was. And let's just say me and my sister Ava. Um, when Ava was first born, we're 6 years apart. I despised her. I wanted nothing to do with her. It was just fear out of jealousy. I was the baby. And I was so used to just being the center of attention and what that knows. I feel like that kind of applies here. Like Logan, like Charles is only left with Logan and the other guy. And now his focus is moving away from them and towards Laura. I think that resentment and that jealousy is starting to take place. I think that's the reason why Logan's relationship took so long to build up.
I kind of thought I had not seen any X-Men movies. I don't know, never really been my thing. My husband and my oldest son were trying to kind of explain some stuff just to kind of catch me up because I'd be like, well, what's that? And they're like, well, then they'd pause it and they'd be like, and then they'd just try to explain, like, I guess, like the history of X-Men because I hadn't seen anything. But I kind of thought, just from watching this one movie, that Logan and Charles's relationship, it almost kind of seemed like it was kind of like father-son figure because like Charles would try to like tell him like not what to do, but he would just try to like instruct him on like what he should do, or he would, instruct him on what he needed to do. But then with Logan, he tried to care for him. Like, he would make sure that he was like, kind of covered up and he was in the bed. I think several times it was like he was reminding him to take his medicine or take his pills or something like that. So it kind of reminded me of like that kind of relationship. But I do agree with the part, like it almost kind of seemed like, because he did go upstairs first to check on Charles instead of going out to check on Laura. I noticed that part too. I also thought that part was like, or just that the whole relationship, because he had not built a relationship yet with Laura. And I thought that some of that was how it kind of tied in with Shane, because he was trying to I guess get away from that lifestyle, and that lifestyle just kind of kept like, coming up, reintroducing itself to him. And it just kept putting him in the situation where he was trying to take control of everything that was going on.
I think your comment there, Stacy, welcomes the discussion of how this might be a Western, because I think you just said it. Logan's trying to escape that life. He's kind of trying to start anew. He's a gunslinger type, right? Who's trying to acclimate himself into civilization, I guess you could say, right? So, that makes sense, right? Especially if we kind of make the Shane and the Shane parallel, right? Because Shane in that movie kind of wants to integrate himself into civilization, right? But he finds that he can't.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because he did, I think it was Timmy that first mentioned it about Logan and Laura. Like, he ran upstairs then to check on Charles. And like when his clone was just like going out the door with her, like he first went to check on him. And I was like, why aren't you checking on the girl? He's going out the door with her. But that's kind of what I thought too. I think Jaden was saying it, like it was almost like he didn't have a relationship with her yet. He hadn't built on that. He kept trying to just stay with, I guess, like, his relationship with Charles, that's what he knew. Like that's what he was a part of, and that's what he knew. And with Laura, it was something that was new, or I mean, it was something that was just coming in of a part of the life he was trying to avoid. He was trying to not be about that part of the life, but it was like it kept presenting itself to him. And Charles was telling him like, like check on the girl or like do this or do that. And that's what reminded about the movie Shane to me. And I also thought it was funny because you had like just the title of it. It was just Shane, and then it was Logan. Like you heard like Shane several times, like the little boy that sounded like annoying. I didn't notice like an annoying part of it, like in the movie Logan, but you heard Shane like a lot in the movie Shane, and then Logan. You heard Logan a lot in the movie Logan, and but that's how it kind of related to me. He was trying to just be like about that life, but it kept the violent part where he kept having to intervene kept kind of showing up to him.
Yeah, that is probably how I'd say that the two relate pretty well. In Logan and Shane both are two guys trying to escape from their previous lives, but trouble just comes along with them, and they end up getting back to where they were before. Just unlike Shane, though, potentially, I don't know, maybe Shane died too, but at least Shane possibly maybe survived in the end. We don't know. You said there was a theory about Shane dying at the end, but
It's kind of slumped over on his horse at the end, if you remember.
that scene
And
there.
another thing, oh, sorry, Matt.
Go on ahead.
And another thing like that I was thinking is the different times, and I put it like in my discussion, the different times, like probably in the time that was it the 50, or I forget exactly what year, but like in the 50s, like I think for Shane, probably for that was probably like, that showed violence, like, during that time, that was pretty violent, like, to be, with that. But if you would show like that movie now, it'd probably just be like just a rated, like a PG or G or whatever movie. Like it probably wouldn't be something that would be rated violent at all. Like it would just be, and then with this one, like this movie, like, which it did show just like, like one, like brief scene of nudity, like at the beginning in the car. I think it was like girls on bachelorette party maybe, but and then like with the language and how violent and bloody and like different things like that. So the level of violence and the content, and I thought that was one of the things that differed about them. Like both were considered violent, I guess, like in their time. Shane was considered like a violent movie like in its time, but not necessarily, it wouldn't be something that you're like, oh yeah, that's really violent to watch. We can't, but like this one, it'd be like, oh gosh, it's got some language in it. Like, like as far as like letting the kids watch it or like, just however, it's just, I guess like the different times that they were made.
Yeah, for a few dollars more that we watched from the 60s, that was seen as ultra violent for its time. Like compared to even like the Hollywood Westerns. So like, yeah, that was seen as risque for the 60s. So it's almost kind of like how different time, that's a good point, Stacey, how like different time periods we've been examining like violence in movies seems to keep escalating.
Made that comparison, and now you just got me wishing there was like a version of this film in the 50s or 60s, and it's almost like Adam West Batman.
I really like how you compared like the two time periods, like violence wise. I actually happened to like watch my siblings during this, my two youngest. So my sister Everly, who's 2, was watching this movie, and when he would pull out his claws, she would act like that. She actually went to scratch me. And I was like, I realized this is a bad idea. Because she has a bad habit of just kind of copying and following along with movies. Like Zootopia, for example. She followed after the fox, and she would actually go to scratch you. I love how like kids will pick up on that, and I just find that very interesting because it kind of did remind me of how Laura kind of picked up on cues with Shane, just like and she like, cause she even quoted the movie at the end, and like how little boy and Shane was like looked up to him. kids will pick up on those cues, and I feel like that was a really good example. So just with children wise throughout the times in Hollywood, just they always want to point out like how kids will pick up on the smallest cues and just look up and idolize them.
Speaking of that last scene, whenever she took the cross and then flipped it sideways into an X, I almost cried. Maybe a little emotional.
That's a powerful scene, right?
Yeah.
I was tearing up rewatching it today too.
Especially how long the series has been around for like how long? Like when was the first X-Men movie with Hugh Jackman?
I think 2001, I think.
Yeah, it's like 2 decades.
And now we're getting a different Wolverine too, so I was kind of upset about that too, seeing his last one, I was like, please just have a cameo in Doctor Strange, like prizes.
Yeah, he hops through the multiverse. He comes through the portal. It's before he died or something.
Patrick Stewart's Professor Xavier supposed to be in the Doctor Strange. I know.
I saw that they've had like 30 cameos listed. They've already named like Fantastic Four and half of the X-Men. It looks pretty legit. I can't wait.
Kashina, you was going to say something a few minutes ago. What was you going to say?
I feel like it was like a Western because of like the villain and the like he was the hero, but usually in the other Western, like we watched, the good guy was after like the bad guy, but in this one, like the bad guys was after the good guys. So, I felt like it was like a Western because of that. But like I said, just a little bit different just because the bad guy was after the good guys in this one.
Yeah, even Logan is kind of an anti-hero, right? I mean, he's not exactly he's not exactly like Shane here as far as, well, you can look at Shane as an anti-hero, but he's not so clean cut with his good guyness. I guess you could, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Logan's kind of like Eastwood here, right? He's kind of almost got like this mercenary quality to him. Hence the fact he was after the money at the beginning, right? That's what was kind of getting him motivated to even take her to Canada. Jessica, you were probably the biggest person or you were the biggest advocate of the theory that this isn't a Western. You want to explain your reasoning?
Yeah, I see. Hold on one second. I see that it does have like the villain, the hero, and the victim like aspect that you see like in restaurants and stuff like that, with Logan of course being the hero and the kids and Laura being the victim, and I can't remember his name, but the people trying to use the kids being the villains. But it doesn't really follow it. Like it seems like in westerns that they're pretty much that he had to be motivated by money. Westerns are usually motivated by like good intentions. It seems like, and it just I just did not feel that it was a Western. I say, I know that they try to, even the poster thing, like the directors and stuff did try to push that Western, that Shane theme on it, but it just seemed more like an action movie to me, not really a Western. I mean, I see what they was trying to do with it. And like, you got Logan and he's going on this journey in Westerns. Yeah, you got a journey, but at the same time, in Westerns, they'll usually fighting over like bank robberies, trains, property, like who's going to take my town or something like that. Well, in this, he's trying to, it's a lot bigger. It's, he's trying to protect children. It's more for greater good. And in the Westerns, the good guys always can do it on their own. They can sling those guns and they can, do everything on their own. Well, he needed help. So it just did not feel like a Western to me. Like it just felt like an action movie, like a superhero action movie.
Jessica, are you arguing that Westerns should take place in like the distant past, like the 19th century or something like that?
Yes and no. Yeah, like when I think of a western, I do think of like the old timey stuff like that. But I could see a western taking place modern time, but it would be kind of ranchy. I can't think of a movie offhand, but like I could see like a modern western. But
there's a good TV show that's kind of like what you are explaining, Longmire. I don't know if you've ever seen Longmire, but that's kind of
no.
I love that show.
Yeah.
It's so good.
But yeah, like that kind of thing. I do think it needs like the western aspect to be a western, but I also think that the crimes and the stuff that there should be revenge and I don't know, like a damsel in distress, which I know the Lord was in distress, but it does not feel like western to me. I don't know how else to best explain it.
Well, I'll call it Stacy here. Stacy, last class you talked about, you were wondering about the Revenant being a western, right? Just because the Revenant kind of takes place in like northern United States, like almost feels Canadian. How did you feel about this, Stacy, especially when thinking about it with the Revenant?
I don't know that, like, I don't know. I mean, you can kind of say, because Western, like when you think of Western, I don't know. I mean, I can see everybody's point on saying that it's like Western, but when I think of Western, I still think of, I guess I kind of agree a little bit like with Jessica, because you still think of like, Western and, different things and stuff like that, the saloons and the dirt, the horses, the things like that. But with this part, there was like the villain and the good guy, bad guy, like kind of, the sides like that. And as far as, I guess it's more like, you could say it's like a modern sci-fi type approach to a Western, if you wanted to clarify it as a Western. In my mind, like if I would have to select a genre for this, I would not think of it as a genre, like in a Western genre. I would think of it more of like a kind of like sci-fi action. I guess, I mean, but that's just me looking, because I didn't look at the Revenant as a Western either. I mean, like the weapons that were used, it wasn't so much, I mean, even the other people, like they had guns and stuff, but like the main weapon here was obviously like his claws and things like that. So that's why I don't know. I don't know. I still don't really think like the Revenant in this one. I mean, it's more like a like, I guess, like a modern spin on it. It's almost like if you would think of a new word for a Western, it's like, okay, because when I think of Western, I still think of like, like the mountains and like saddles and spurs and cowboys, cowboy hats, things like that. So I don't know. It would be like if you thought of a more, a modern word for Western, and if you tried to do it that way. But if you wanted to kind of compare and contrast this, and this did have like, I guess the weapon. This had, the villains. This had, that spin on it. So I would say like, I would not classify it like as a Western, but I would say like, if you would want to say like a modern sci-fi spin on a Western, then, you could maybe do it that, like do a spin on it that way.
I kind of view like superhero movies and stuff as the nowadays westerns in my mind, because like back in the day, westerns are popular. Nowadays, it's like kind of formed into like still the hero type, but more superpowers, like sci-fi feeling, and transferring over time into the superhero movies.
Yeah, that is a pretty good comparison. That the westerns back then are kind of like what the superhero movies are today. They're just kind of like the big hit right now. I do definitely see some like parallels to westerns in this film. Like obviously, like it's like where it starts at. It takes place in I believe it starts off in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and also there's a little bit of gunslinging in there, but I feel like I guess you could say it's probably more like a small homage to westerns. I don't know if I'd classify it as a western itself. I feel like it's stretching it a little bit, but I do definitely see some of the parallels.
Let me kind of explain myself here, right? For my, I would classify it as a Western, but I definitely see all your guys' opinions. Some of you guys, I think, are a little entrenched, like the Western should take place in like the 1800s, right? The distant past. Well, so let me kind of explain a little bit of the history of the Western. So like back in like the 50s and 60s, right? They looked back on the distant past for stories of American heroism, right? Sudden after World War II, America was suddenly the biggest, strongest country in the world. So this was the Western was almost this very patriotic genre, right? Looking back at all these different heroes throughout time. But at its core, the Western has always been about, even the West is a geographical place, but it's also a concept, right? Ever since the 1800s, when people were moving west, people went to the West for a sense of renewal, right? They would go there, like let's say you lived in Boston in the 1800s, right? Or New York. Well, maybe this wasn't such a nice place to live. There's a lot of corruption in the city, right? So moving west was the idea. It's an idea about renewal, rebirth, almost in a way. So, and that's why people moved west, right? They moved west wanting a new start or wanting to get a piece of land to settle on. We kind of saw that in Shane, right? The homesteaders wanted their own little piece of the American pie, right? So that's why they kind of settled on their land. Of course, they ran into the ranchers, but yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm going, right? The Western genre is an idea more so than even a literal place. So this is kind of why we've seen Westerns evolve, right? We've seen you guys are saying this is kind of like a sci-fi Western. Well, if you think about sci-fi has adopted a lot of Western attributes. Like if you've ever watched Star Trek, right? What's the famous phrase in Star Trek, right? To boldly go where no man has gone before, right? The new frontier, space, the final frontier. So the way that Americans thought of the West as a frontier in the 1800s, like we're now looking at almost new types of frontiers, right? With outer space or even the ocean. Like think about like all the things we haven't discovered in the ocean. So that was a bit of a long rant there. I don't know. I don't know what you guys thought of that, but
I mean, when you put it that way, I see what you're going for, especially the part where you mentioned them moving to the West, because that's pretty much what Logan does in this movie. He moves out to the West to start a new life and start fresh. Comes a limo driver, and he's decides to stay there to take care of Charles. And yeah, I see what you're going for there when you could say it like that.
I agree. I can see your point though, but I when I think of modern Russians, I still think of, like, I don't know if you've ever watched Book of Eli or like Cowboys and Aliens. I don't know if you've ever watched either one of those, but that's like, and it's still like you said, like that genre of like a wasteland, dust, or just going. Those are the movies I think of when I think of modern. But I see your point on how this is a modern restaurant. When you take each piece like that, I think I focus too much on the superhero aspect of it, maybe.
I kind of think it is a Western because of the main character Logan, for sure, because of how he kind of has that redemption story where he beginning of the movie he is kind of lost and he's kind of just at his wit's end, and by the end he finds another reason to be himself again. And he does get his revenge on the guy that put the thing that's killing him, the adamantium, in his body's son. I thought that was pretty cool how it kind of all came back around, and his son got to die too, because he's the one that would have seen him get poisoned as well. But I thought it was kind of on par with the character development and stories of old westerns as far as with Logan.
Yeah, you had a good point there, Brennan, especially about you still have a revenge plot line here. I didn't really think of that, but yeah, we certainly do. Yeah, this was the Western was a genre that died out after the Vietnam War, because after the Vietnam War, people really started to feel disenfranchised with America. Right, that was a really troubling time for our country. Right, suddenly people didn't really start to see us as this like force of good for the world, all this stuff anymore. I told you guys before that 1970s was a very pessimistic decade for cinema. But so whenever the Western did come back, we can kind of thank Clint Eastwood for this. Whenever the Western did come back, it especially started to blur those lines of good and evil and things like that again. So to survive, the Western has had to adapt past the way those older films were.
Yeah, I love we have our different stages of cinema in the world, like how it started with westerns, and now we're down to, and then we went to, of course, for the 70s, we went to crime and more darker things like war film. In the 80s, we started with the whole colorful, dark scenery, like Blade Runner and Predator and some of that. And 90s, of course, was big for a kind of mix of things. And now we're all about superheroes, and you can't get a movie to make over $50 million in the box office now because there's a superhero movie out every month, and it's kind of bombarding you a little bit.
Literally every month, right? There seems to be a new one every month.
Yeah, I saw today that Jordan Peele's new movie is the same day, July 22nd, that Aquaman, or it was another, maybe Jurassic World or something like that comes out, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, they need to move that back. They don't want to compete with one of those big blockbusters. It's like, right. Did any of you guys see the new Batman film over the weekend, by the way?
It's my new favorite.
It's your new favorite?
My new favorite. Yeah, I can't wait for the second one.
I loved it. It was so.
What did you guys think about it we won't go too deep and spoil it for people, but what did you guys think about it from a film noir standpoint, especially since we just finished the noir unit?
I think it took a lot from Seven and Zodiac, especially. Whenever I first saw the Riddler in that opening scene, I said, "Oh my God, it's a Zodiac killer." I told my dad that. I said, "That's amazing how much he looks like him." And then they took some from Jigsaw there too, and I love how not to get too much into spoilers, but Bruce is just like a broken shell of a dude, and he just no longer even wants to be himself anymore because of his past trauma and stuff. And you can really see that they're going to really build on that, I think, in the next two films. But the movie shot it, and there's so many beautiful like shots in the movie, but they're all at sunset or sun, or sun up, because he's out all night, and he just, that's all he does, and I love it.
Yeah, I agree with Brennan. I definitely recommend it. It's one of the best Batman films made. So Robert Pattinson nailed it.
I love during the funeral scene. It's already out on YouTube. So no spoilers there, but the funeral scene where he just doesn't even have to say a word to anybody, and it's just, you can see that he's just watching, all the surroundings, and whenever the phone goes off, everybody flinches because they think the bomb's gonna go off, and he just stands there. He just don't even care. I love that. I was like, this dude is just cold.
Yeah, he got a bad rep from Twilight, right? But he's actually a very, very good actor.
Yeah, The Lighthouse is one of my favorites. The Lighthouse and Good Time. He's fantastic in those two.
Yeah, we did The Lighthouse in my horror unit last year, I think it was. But yeah, Matt, Brennan and I kind of waxed poetic about the new Batman movie. Get us back on track if you want there, Matt.
All right. Well, let's see. I mean, we already covered
Yeah.
most of my discussion questions I got here. Let's see, what else could we talk about here?
Well, the last question you got about the other X-Men movies. Maybe this is a good chance to talk for just a few minutes about superhero movies. Not just
Yeah, just in
X-Men, but
general.
not just X-Men, but in general. Yeah. How into these movies are you guys? Like the Marvel universe and DC and all this stuff. Like, are you guys super into these movies since they're the big thing right now, right? Like was said earlier, it's hard to make money these days unless it is one of these types of movies.
I've watched a lot of the Marvel movies. I haven't really watched a whole lot of DC. Like with this movie, this was probably about. I haven't watched a whole lot of the X-Men. I think I watched some of them when I was younger, but I don't really remember anything about them. So like this is pretty much about it for me when it comes to these X-Men movies.
I'm not really into them. Like I like them and stuff, but what I've noticed with the Marvel situation is that they're too intertwined. If they continue on this path, I feel like more people will get lost and just not want to even follow with it, just because there's going to be so many movies they have to watch to even get the point. Like right now, it's okay, but if they continue on this, like within the series, like with WandaVision, you have to watch all of them. With the same thing with Loki and everything else. If you don't watch all the movies, you're not going to really understand the points. But if they continue on with that, more and more people are not going to be willing to watch TV shows or movies just because they have to restart the whole thing to even get it.
Yeah, like for example, in like the new Spider-Man movie, like the one scene where Daredevil's in it, I didn't know it was Daredevil because I never watched the series on that. I was like, I had no clue until I was after there. It's like, oh, it's Daredevil. I was like, oh, what? Okay. I didn't even like realize that was who that was. Yeah, there is kind of, you got to see them all to understand everything that's going on. This movie though, you didn't really have to. This movie was good as a standalone movie. That's what I like. One thing I did like about it.
I used to be a big DC fan, and that's one thing I will say about DC compared to Marvel. If you watch one DC Batman, you kind of understand the rest of them because they're all kind of like within the same storyline. I actually watched the show Gotham for a good bit. I was never a big fan of all the superhero movies, but I was watching it and I can easily get the plot without having to watch everything else. That's why I kind of like DC a little bit more, just because you don't have to watch so many movies to get the plot of the next one.
Yeah, this is a good chance real quick to talk about Hollywood and the power dynamics in Hollywood. Like back in the 90s, Marvel Comics was actually in a bit of a bind financially. So they sold these movie rights off, right? So they sold the rights to X-Men's always been the biggest Marvel comic, but they sold the rights to X-Men off to Fox. Fox is who made this movie. And then they sold the rights to Spider-Man off to Sony Productions. like over the past couple of years, of course, Marvel eventually got bought up by Disney, and what we've seen a lot over the past couple of years is Disney is kind of eating up the rest of the movie industry. This Logan's like one of the last X-Men movies that were made by Fox, because Disney actually bought 20th Century Fox and merged them into one company. So
Disney has ruined so many movies just because they're all the same plot, like not plot line, they're just all kind of the same. I really like Pixar, but they've ruined Pixar over the years. Like you're not going to get the same movies like a Ratatouille or like it's not E.T., what is it? Wall-E. Wall-E was such a good movie, but if they would remake it now with Disney owning it, it would ruin the whole storyline in my mind. Because they're like, oh, we need to appeal to the children. Let's not expand their brains. Let's just try to get their attention. They're not trying to make them think and realize things and give them comprehension skills. Or even, I want the bloopers back of the Pixar movies. But Disney has ruined so many like good film industries just by taking it over and kind of just making it more bland and digestible instead of making it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like Disney has become like super powerful, like way too powerful. Like they own so much stuff. They bought up so many different.
They bought Lucasfilm as well. That's why
They bought Lucasfilms. They bought Fox. They also bought Blue Sky Studios, which made a lot of popular like animated films like Ice Age and stuff like that. And they just like it's kind of crazy.
Don't you get me started on Ice Age. Okay, they've ruined it. They have ruined it. Those are my
God,
favorite
yeah,
movies
I've heard about that. It does not look good.
Okay, that was my favorite movie growing up, and they ruined them after Disney bought them. I was so upset.
Yeah, like when Disney bought Fox, most people were like, yay, the X-Men are now going to be part of the Marvel universe. Right. Well, think about the consequences of that, right? They killed a fourth of the film industry off.
Yeah.
Right. So
they also had a Fantastic Four, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, Fox had and Deadpool. So you're probably not going to see any more Deadpool films either, because Deadpool is like got that rated R, raunchy type humor.
They're making a third Deadpool.
Disney's actually making one. That surprises me.
Disney created their own studio for Deadpool and for standalone films, and they're going to be like a rated R studio for Blade and Deadpool and stuff like that. I was very happy about that, because Ryan Reynolds came out and said it's not the last time you'll see him, but he'll be PG-13 for all the joint films.
Right.
But my biggest thing with Marvel is, to begin with, I loved it because they were all really good, really well put together films. But then as you kept going, you're just kind of like, there's no stakes anymore. Like, why can't somebody die at the end of one of their solo movies? Like, they all have to tie together. They're all going to one big thing, and you know they're going to win. And that's what I love about DC, is how dark it is. Where like when I watched Man of Steel, I thought, my God, this dude might lose. And like the Batman, I was thinking the whole time, like, oh my gosh, this might be a solo movie. You know what I mean? And it's just that kind of thing. Is DC is, they tried to do it and they couldn't, because they tried to rush it, but like they do really good with solo storylines where they let one director just take their own like image and just create it. And Marvel's very just, they kind of, in my opinion, like Martin Scorsese said, like they ruin film, because now it's just, everything's just kind of, okay, we're going to do this. You have to watch this. You have to watch this to understand this. And I don't like WandaVision. Why do I have to watch it? You know, and it gets on my nerves.
Yeah, you said it well there, Brennan. DC was doing well doing its own thing, but they kind of tried to start mimicking Marvel. And that's when they started kind of going downhill. Yeah, I think this is a good discussion to have. This is something we haven't talked enough about in this course so far, is the actual film industry itself, and how that oftentimes either stifles creativity or perhaps helps with creativity.
Like, I went and watched Nightmare Alley, and right after I watched Spider-Man, because I had heard it was really good, and I just I watched it, and then I looked at the box office because I was like, this is a great movie, and I looked at the box office, and I was like, okay, it's not doing very well. When probably 15 years ago, it probably would have been a big grab, and it kind of upset me a little bit. And it's cool now to know that and The Last Door are doing really good on streaming. But I was like, these two films are fantastic, and people should come watch them in theater. And it was so much more immersing seeing them in theater than it is watching it at home.
Well, guys, it looks like we're out of time. It's a very good job to you, Matt. You did a good job with this movie. So,
Thank you. Yeah, I used the Wolverine font here for the.
yeah,
thought
that
that'd be
I like.
funny.
I like the N at the end. It's very sharp. It's a very sharp looking N. So very good. So again, Thursday we're going to be watching a gangster film, Goodfellas. I think that Goodfellas is on HBO. I might be wrong, but I think it's on that.
It is.
It is. Okay.
I saw it on there the other day.
Yeah, you guys will be able to watch Goodfellas on HBO if you have that service. All right, guys. We'll see you then. You guys take care. Have a good next couple of days.
Yeah. Well, we were on topic of Disney or something interesting that I noticed that I thought was this is kind of unrelated to like the movies, but like Mickey Mouse the character, like it's supposed to become a public domain in a couple of years, and I'm like, oh god, what are they going to do? They're going to like try and push it back even more, and then all these other films and books and everything will like be able to become public domain because they probably try to like they try to do something to make it not happen.
Yeah.
Like this year, Winnie the Pooh became public domain, so that surprised me when I found that out that they let that happen.
Well, only the book. Like
Winnie, you can't use like you can't use like the Disney design. You can just use like the original version of the character. But I was still surprised that they let that happen.
Yeah, they keep pushing that back further and further.
Yeah, they pushed that back like it used to not be nearly as long, but now like last year was like the first time that this year, I mean, was like the first time a bunch of things hit public domain in a long time because of how they've pushed it back.
Yes, Sherlock Holmes is still not in the public domain either. You still have to get Conan Doyle's permission to do it. That's what seems crazy, right? But that's how much they've pushed public domain back. Even Sherlock Holmes still isn't in the public domain. I guess Conan Doyle published one in like the 20s or something. So that's why that's still even not in the domain yet.
I don't understand how that works. So like when you say public domain, are you talking about like, because I read a lot of books and like they use like Beauty and the Beast retellings and stuff like that. So is it like they can't use the story? Like is it copyright? Like if you use like the, so
it's like a copyright thing. Like if it like once it hits public domain, anyone's allowed to use the story or use the characters from the story. But then if like before, like of course before then it's copyrighted, you have to get permission, you have to get the rights to it.
The author loses a certain right, or the author's estate loses the right to the book after like 90 years or something.
Yeah, it's like nearly 100 years, something crazy now because of Disney.
That makes sense because like Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland, and all of them, I've read retellings of them, and it was on Kindle Unlimited. But then when I went to read a retelling of Harry Potter, it's called Manicure. It's a really good book. I had to go, and it was like through a fan fiction site, even though the person published it, and they got like in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to mess with.
So I was wondering why all these other people could write retelling, when she tried to rewrite a retelling of Harry Potter, she got in trouble. That's what I was wondering. So it's because, okay.
All right, guys. So we'll close it there. So you guys have a good one.